Saturday at noon Eastern, Jerry World, AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas, the Big 12 championship game between the Iowa State Cyclones versus the Arizona State Sun Devils. Sun Devils come into this game favored by 2 points. Arizona State enters the title game on a 5-game straight up and against the spread winning streak. Major conference teams, P4 teams, P5 including the Pac-12, entering their title game on a 5+ game straight up and against the spread winning streak are 7-4 against the spread since 1992. We all know about Matt Campbell as an underdog, right? And it's been that way ever since he's been at Toledo. It's stayed that way at Iowa State. He is good as an underdog. He's 36, 23-3 straight up. And I think it gets even better when it's within that field goal range, which this game is. Last note on the Big 12 championship game, when the Big 12 title game is played at a neutral site, the favorite has won 12 straight outright. Last loser coming in 2003 when Oklahoma lost to Kansas State. That plays in the Sun Devils' favor here. So you got Sam Levitt, you got Rocco Becht, you've got a really, really good Arizona State rushing attack with Cam Skattebo going against a very poor rush defense in Iowa State. That's where they struggle a little bit.
Iowa State's 96th in the country, giving up 174 yards per game in the rush yards. Yeah,
and I want to say yards per carry, they're like 112th at like 5.1 yards per carry.
And Skattebo's number 9 in the country in rushing touchdowns and number 8 in the country in rushing yards at 1,400 yards and 17 tutties.
Yep. But if you look at this game and you look at power ratings like S&P Plus and Kelly Ford, it actually it points in the direction of Iowa State. And one thing that really, really hurts the Sun Devils, and I saw this come across the ticker last night, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, is out.
Yeah, he's a 1,000-yard receiver with 10 touchdowns. Their next leading receiver, Skattebo.
Yeah. He's going to have to do it all for them on Saturday afternoon. Yeah. I think he can.
He can. He absolutely can. Him and Levitt both in the run game.
This truly is, these teams are ranked number 15 and 16. This truly is a playoff game. Like, this is your playoff game of the weekend. This and Boise and UNLV are playoff games.
Dude, is it, I don't mean to cut, but isn't this like exactly how it should be with this conference? We called it America's Conference before. Like Josh Pate calls it America's Conference. You called it the Conference of Chaos before the year ever started.
Yep.
We talked about it in the preseason deal when we broke down the Big 12, that if you are a fan of like just the purest form of college football and what it always used to be before NIL, like you going and developing kids and bringing kids into your program, redshirting them, developing them. They're not getting paid $8 zillion to play for your team. That is what these two teams are. Kenny Dillingham and Matt Campbell are just two coaches that, I mean, unless you're rivals of these two teams, I don't know anybody that hates these two coaches, man. These are two coaches that I personally love to death too. So I just think it's fitting that this is the game of the weekend that is like a de facto playoff game. Whoever wins is in. Whoever loses, you're out.
Yeah. In my opinion, the Big 12 conference is better than the ACC conference.
I agree.
The ACC's just had more top-heavy teams.
Yep.
And the Big 12 is similar to the Pac-12 last year, where they just kept beating up on each other, where you had teams like Oregon State last year who was really good, and you couldn't get over the hump because you ran into Washington, ran into Oregon. So I think it's a really good conference. Should be a really good game Saturday. But I think Skattebo is one of the big X factors in this game for me.
Yeah, I agree. Something that like you said, Iowa State hasn't been good against the run, but I went back and looked at it last week. It's a pretty good tune-up for this one. You had a dual-threat quarterback that you were facing in Avery Johnson in Farmageddon, DJ Giddens, tailback for Kansas State. Very similar to what you're getting this week. Skattebo's been a little bit better this year, obviously overall. And I mean, Arizona State, they're going to be able to. They have a dual threat quarterback as well in Levitt. So it's an interesting tune-up game. And Iowa State did a really good job of keeping that rushing attack in check for Kansas State last week. But then again, you go look at some of their other games. I mean, they did not keep UCS rushing attack in check. They did not keep Kansas's rushing attack in check. So the common opponent deal there on some of these teams. I mean, it's obvious. If Iowa State, it's very simple. If Iowa State, I don't necessarily think they have to stop Scatterbo. They need to be able to just somewhat slow him down, and then they need to make Arizona State kick field goals when they get it in the red zone. Because I do think that, I mean, Iowa State's defense, the 3-3-5 stack they run, the defensive coordinator, John Heacock, I mean, that defense was literally brought to the Big 12 and for Iowa State to be able to stop the passing attacks going on at that time during the Big 12 play. And it did just that for the longest time. Sometimes it's a little more susceptible to the rush because obviously you've only got 3 down linemen. You don't have as much beef up front. But there have been years they haven't been able to do it. I just think that John Heacock, one of the best defensive coordinators in all of the Big 12, he's proven it over the years. He's going to come up with, again, they know it. It's Cam Scatterbo. And obviously now with Jordan Tyson being out, like you said, I mean, it is literally what can we do to stop him or to slow him down. Another thing that's interesting, you know that Iowa State is the only team in the entire country that has 2 1,000-yard receivers. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel both have 1,000 yards, and they've got 15 touchdowns combined.
Okay.
So, Rocco Becht, he's capable of going in there and lighting this game up and taking over this game with his arm, with those 2 receivers. But he's also capable of throwing multiple picks in this game. I mean, I did some dig again on some of these numbers. Both of these teams don't really get after the quarterback much and don't have a lot of tackles for a loss. They're both pretty poor in that scenario. So I don't really know how much they're going to be able to affect Levitt in the passing game if he's in the pocket or Rocco Becht when he's in the pocket. Both are very solid in the turnover margin. Both do a really good job of intercepting passes. They're both 2 of the best teams in the country of intercepting the ball on the defensive side. So, again, that's something to look for in regards to, obviously, Iowa State's going to air it out more with Rocco Becht and those 2 receivers. Can Arizona State pick them off? I mean, for me, it just comes down to, can Iowa State slow down Cam Scatterbo? And I went back and forth on this. There is absolutely no best. This is the biggest crapshoot, in my opinion, of any of the games this weekend. I think Matt Campbell, who's come close in the Big 12, back in 2020, they got beat in the Big 12 championship game by Oklahoma in just a heartbreaker. I think Matt Campbell and Iowa State and the Clones get it done in this game. I think Rocco Becht and those 2 receivers make a difference. I think John Heacock and that comes up with a defensive game plan to be able. I think Scatterbo will get his. I think he'll have he'll cross the century line and get 100+ yards. But I think they slow him down enough, and I think that Iowa State wins this game, and obviously they cover because they're an underdog. So I think Iowa State wins this game and covers, but it's not a best bet. I'm taking the Clones.
I'm with you. I'm taking Iowa State as well.
Okay.
I think Iowa State goes in. I think they get the job done. I think it's a lot easier just to key on one guy. And if somehow Arizona State finds a really quick replacement for Jordan Tyson, and they find a guy who similarly in college basketball, a guy that's not even on the scouting report, comes out and starts making threes and you didn't even know he was on the team.
Like Duke
if they get something like that, then, I'll be surprised. But I think Iowa State, like you said, I think Matt Campbell as an underdog is really good. Arizona State has had a heck of a season. Kenny Dillingham not going anywhere. He's going to stay in Arizona State for a while, I think. He's going to build that program.
It's from there.
They've got some money out there in Arizona and everything. I think he's always asking for NIL money, right? So they're going to get some money in there. They're going to get some players in there. They've already got a lot of talent around there to recruit those players. So to get those players to come in and play for them. So I think that this isn't their year, though. It's Iowa State's year. And I think using the underdog role, I think Iowa State goes in there and they get the job done.